הוא רצה עכשיו.
He wanted a Jewish state immediately. His friends understood that it was going to take time.
That same year, David Ben-Gurion was named commander-in-chief of the Haganah, the Jewish paramilitary group in Palestine, forbidden by the British. In April 1936, Arabs throughout Mandatory Palestine called for a general strike. They demanded an end to Jewish immigration and a ban on selling land to Jews. The Palestinian Arab opposition culminated in the Arab Revolt of 1936. The uprising was aimed at both Zionism and the British presence in Palestine. The unrest led to many casualties. Several hundred Arabs and more than 300 Jews were killed. The Arab Higher Committee was founded that same year. It was chaired by Amin al-Husseini, the Grand Mufti of Jerusalem.
The Mufti was the leader of the Palestinian people. He was a terrible person whose nationalism was pro-Nazi. For one, because the Nazis were the enemies of the British and the Jews. And the other, because he sympathized with Nazi ideology. It was absolute deluded madness for the Mufti of Jerusalem to throw himself into the arms of Hitler in Berlin.
The Mufti went to Berlin and attempted to organize SS units, a Muslim SS. He wanted to join with the German army, enter Palestine, and of course kill the Jews in the settlement here. The Mufti had no real standing in Germany. Hitler didn't bother with the Mufti. He disregarded him. But the Mufti befriended Eichmann. Early on, in 1936, Eichmann became the head of the Jewish department of the Gestapo, the secret police in the SS. And he was sent to Mandatory Palestine to get to know the enemy. In other words, to learn Hebrew, the holidays, the customs, and then return to Germany. That way, he would know whom he was dealing with and how to handle it. They believed they needed to learn exactly who the Jews were. So the Mufti became friends with Eichmann. Eichmann also confirmed that. The Mufti wrote in his memoirs that they were friends in the sense that they were united by a common interest in getting rid of the Jews.
Later on, we really paid the price for the mad lapse of the Mufti of Jerusalem.
Historian Haggai Horowitz later wrote about the significance of the Grand Mufti of Jerusalem's meeting with Hitler. Quote, "It was a sign that the national Arab movement's objectives had changed. For the first time, everyone was aware of the danger that threatened our existence. It was no longer imaginary. It was the blow that changed the nature of the conflict and our combat strategy." The Nazis' enactment of the anti-Semitic, racist Nuremberg laws threatened the lives of millions of Jews in Europe. At the same time, the British blocked immigration routes to Palestine. Other nations also closed their doors to Jewish people. Strict immigration quotas set by the United States Congress radically reduced the number of refugees from Germany and Austria. In July 1938, delegates from 32 countries convened for a conference in Evian, France to tackle how to aid German Jewish refugees, but little came out of it. None of the 32 countries present agreed to open their borders to persecuted Jews. As war with Germany loomed, the British organized the St. James Conference in February 1939, hoping to squash an Arab alliance with the Axis powers. The meeting brought Jews and Arabs to the table for the first time, but the Arab delegates refused to actually meet with the representatives from the Jewish agency. Britain viewed Palestine as a powder keg, more precarious than ever. British officials published another white paper. In it, they announced a plan to drastically limit Jewish immigration. They also stated unequivocally that they had no intention of making Palestine a Jewish state. In September 1939, German troops invaded Poland, marking the start of the Second World War. Europe and North Africa became battlegrounds. Erwin Rommel commanded troops in North Africa and planned to invade Palestine. David Ben-Gurion rallied people to, quote, support the British as if there is no white paper and oppose the white paper as if there is no war. The Haganah paramilitary agreed to form a Jewish brigade within the British Army, whose mission would be to fight the German troops.
As a child, my father could read newspapers in 4 languages. He had a keenly developed political awareness. His mother died in 1939, shortly after the Nazis invaded. He then convinced his father, a traditional Jew, that there was no other place for Jews except Eretz Israel, the land of Israel. For 4 months, they traveled south down the Danube and then on a boat filled with illegal immigrants. No country in the world would allow it to dock, neither Britain, Churchill, nor the United States under Roosevelt. He was a 12-year-old Jewish boy with nothing but the sea under his feet. Finally, they arrived here and the British arrested them.
More and more people arrived, hundreds of thousands of people, and everyone told stories about what was unfolding. At first, we thought the ghettos were the worst thing imaginable. But then, we started hearing alarming news out of Poland. Terrible reports about multiple murders in many places.
They didn't believe it. People couldn't grasp it at first. They saw it as pogroms and anti-Semitism.
It seemed too terrible to be true. Bit by bit, by the end of the year, we were seeing a fuller picture of the atrocities. Murder by horrific methods. People buried alive. Parents forced to bury their children. Executions by gunshot in front of ditches. In August 1942, a telegram arrived here saying that Himmler had decided to kill between 3.5 and 4 million people by the end of the year.